In the wilderness, the most extraordinary building was not carved from stone. It was built to disappear, return, and rise again wherever the people stopped. To modernize, it may seem like a sacred tent, but according to the biblical account, the tabernacle was a portable architecture of order. It had to be assembled, dismantled, carried, guarded, and rebuilt across a landscape that punished every weak joint and every careless measurement. This was the mystery. How could a temporary structure carry the authority of a permanent sanctuary and do it again and again? The answer was not size alone. It was system, repeated parts, strict boundaries, layered materials, and a sacred path from dust to gold. The tabernacle turned open wilderness into sequence. Every gate, fabric wall, socket, and veil told the viewer what could be approached and what could not. Its story begins after Egypt, when a displaced people entered the desert carrying memory, fear, wealth, skill, and a covenant still taking shape. They had no palace, no city walls, and no stone temple. Yet the biblical command was astonishing: build a dwelling for divine presence. That command created a technical problem as much as a spiritual one. How do you build permanence for a nation that is always moving? The tabernacle solved it through modular design. Components that could lock together, separate without collapse, and return to the same geometry at the next camp. At the foundation of the system was acacia wood, a desert material valued for hardness, resilience, and resistance to decay in harsh conditions. This wood became frames, poles, altars, and sacred furniture. It was ordinary material transformed by craftsmanship, measurement, and ritual meaning. But wood alone could not survive repeated assembly. Metal gave the sanctuary strength: sockets to anchor it, rings to connect it, clasps to hold it. Materials also created a hierarchy. Bronze belonged to exposure and fire. Gold drew the eye inward, toward spaces seen by only a few. Every step inward changed the visual language: raw desert, pale linen, dark bronze, woven color, hammered gold, and finally the silence behind the veil. This was architecture as experience. The building taught through distance, texture, shadow, light, and the discipline of restricted access. The outer court was the first engineering statement. Exodus describes a defined rectangle imposed on a wilderness that offered no natural walls. Ancient measurements gave the court proportion. Its boundaries were light enough to travel, yet strong enough to organize an entire camp around a center. The curtain walls were not stone, but in the desert, even fabric could become monumental when it controlled sight, movement, and reverence. Inside the court stood the bronze altar, built to endure fire, ash, heat, weight, and the repeated rhythm of ritual use. The altar made the tabernacle impossible to mistake for a simple camp shrine. It was a functioning sacred system, not a symbolic decoration. Nearby stood the basin, smaller but essential. It controlled the rhythm of approach, washing, preparation, and the boundary between ordinary touch and sacred service. The tabernacle organized human behavior. It told the people where to gather, where to stop, and where only priests could pass. At the center rose the tent itself, layered, covered, insulated, and visually removed from the ordinary world surrounding it. Its coverings were more than decoration. They were environmental technology against sun, dust, wind, and the vulnerability of sacred objects in open country. From outside, the covering appeared restrained and practical. Beneath it, according to the biblical description, was a hidden world of blue, purple, scarlet, and fine linen. That contrast is the visual genius of the structure. Humble exterior, intense interior, a sacred reality concealed until the viewer crosses the threshold. The sanctuary boards formed a rigid frame, but they were never meant to be permanent. They had to hold firm, then come apart cleanly. Each socket, ring, bar, and pole solved the same problem in miniature: portable stability without sacrificing sacred precision. The tabernacle was not monumental because it could not move. It was monumental because it could survive movement without losing its identity. In that sense, it anticipated a principle known to every builder and traveler. The strongest design is not always an object. It is a system, but engineering alone cannot explain its power. The tabernacle also created a map of holiness, moving from public space to hidden presence. The closer one moved toward the center, the fewer people could follow. Architecture became a language of awe, distance, and permission. Inside the holy place were objects that carried both function and symbol: light, bread, incense, and a carefully ordered presence. The lampstand was more than illumination. In a windowless chamber, it became a tree of flame, turning darkness into sacred visibility. Flame revealed surfaces the desert sun could never reach: hammered gold, woven thread, polished edges, and shadows that made the room feel deeper. The table of bread anchored another idea. This was not only a structure of worship, but a place of covenant, provision, and remembrance. The incense altar stood before the veil, marking the final threshold before the most restricted space in the entire sanctuary. Then came the veil, fabric acting as wall, warning, mystery, and invitation, all without a single block of stone. Behind it was the most holy place, a small chamber carrying the greatest weight of meaning in the entire design. Here the architecture narrowed to almost nothing: a room, an ark, poles, gold, silence, and the unseen presence at the center of the tradition. Even the ark was engineered for movement. The holiest object had rings and poles, because holiness itself would travel with the people. That is the paradox at the heart of the tabernacle. The center of sacred presence was not fixed. It was built to be carried. The sanctuary did not ask the people to return to a permanent mountain. It met them in a journey of uncertainty. That made it more than a building. It became a portable identity for a people still learning how to live as a nation. Every material carried meaning. Gold suggested nearness. Bronze endured exposure. Linen separated. Wood connected desert earth to human craft. Even the colors spoke in layers: blue like heaven, purple like royalty, scarlet like blood and sacrifice, linen like purity and separation. But beauty required labor: metalworkers, carpenters, weavers, carriers, priests, organizers, and a community willing to build around a sacred task. The tabernacle was not the work of one genius. It was coordinated memory, shared skill, and disciplined hands shaped into architecture. This is where the engineering becomes human. Every socket had to fit. Every curtain had to align. Every object had to survive the road. A permanent temple can hide some mistakes in mass and stone. A portable sanctuary is less forgiving. Its weakness travels with it. If a covering tore, a frame warped, or a base failed, the order of the camp could be disturbed from the center outward. So the design depended on repetition: repeated measurements, repeated parts, repeated rituals, and repeated assembly until the structure lived in memory. The people could rebuild the sanctuary because the pattern was not only stored in materials, it was stored in trained hands. Each rebuilding repeated the same message: holiness could enter the wilderness, but only through order, discipline, and careful approach. The wilderness tried to erase footprints. The tabernacle answered with measurement, alignment, material, and a center that could be found again. The desert scattered people across distance. The tabernacle gathered them around a visible center, turning migration into a patterned community. The desert offered no gates. The tabernacle created thresholds: one entrance, one path, one narrowing sequence toward mystery. This is why it remains visually powerful. It turns emptiness into sequence, sand into architecture, and a moving people into a remembered story. Later, temples would rise in stone. Jerusalem would become a fixed sacred center. But in the biblical story, the portable sanctuary came first. It was a prototype, a movable grammar of sacred space before monumental stone made the idea permanent in the landscape. Its influence is measured not only in dimensions, but in the way it taught people to imagine nearness, distance, purity, danger, and presence. A sanctuary could be small and still monumental, temporary and still enduring, hidden and still central to an entire people. That tension is the secret of its story. It was not impressive because it conquered the landscape, but because it gave meaning to it. It created significance without towers, walls, or a city. It made a center where geography had given the people only horizon. In a world obsessed with ruins, the tabernacle leaves almost no ruin to visit. Its power survives in description, memory, and reconstruction. That absence makes it more mysterious. We do not walk through its preserved walls. We rebuild its silence from text, craft, and imagination. We imagine the weight of the boards, the smell of smoke, the glow of gold, and the hush before the veil. We imagine a people stopping in the desert and building, once again, the center of their world before continuing into uncertainty. The miracle was not only that the tabernacle could be built, it was that it could be carried without becoming ordinary. The same objects touched sand, smoke, human hands, and sacred space. In that tension, the engineering becomes almost poetic. What looks fragile from a distance becomes, up close, a disciplined machine of worship, logistics, memory, and identity. The tabernacle was not merely a place where rituals happened. It was a design that made the invisible feel structured, weighted, and near. And perhaps that is why it still captures the imagination. It was both shelter and symbol, object and journey, blueprint and mystery. Long before stone temples dominated sacred skylines, a portable sanctuary crossed the wilderness and proved that architecture could move with faith. Its materials may have vanished, but the idea remains, a divine blueprint translated into human hands, desert craft, and disciplined design.